Secretary Clinton, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Last week, the UK voted to leave the EU, and a lot of observers were very surprised by the outcome. What were you expecting to happen?
Well, I was hoping for the best, but feared the vote that actually came through, because I do think that there is this undercurrent in advanced economies and democracies that it's just not working for a significant group of people. And I worried that the campaign to stay in the EU was not as emotionally effective in making their case as the campaign to leave. But I'm no expert on British elections, so I was disappointed but not surprised, because it's clearly their decision, but there's been a lot of second guessing and a lot of regret being expressed now that I think shows that the campaign never really fully answered a lot of the issues that the country would have to face if they voted to leave.
Well, a lot of people are talking about that, the idea that this was an incredible marketing campaign, that the Leave side really just did a better job of telling their story. Does it change at all how you run your own campaign? Have you thought about, does it have any impact at all on the way you're running?
I don't see it as having direct impact. I do agree, though, with the analysts who are saying, look, the Leave campaign just told all kinds of false tales and advertised on buses and in posters a lot of what they said would happen. And then as soon as the vote came in, it was like, just kidding. No, we don't really think we'll get $350 million a week to put in the National Health Service. And, you know, we still are going to have immigrants coming from non-EU countries and on and on. So I really fault the campaign that was run to keep people in for not taking on all of those wrong, misleading claims. Now, we're not sitting around letting Donald Trump say whatever he wants to say. We are responding to what he does say. We are pointing out his intemperate and unqualified presence for being our commander-in-chief. And so I think we are doing what needs to be done in a campaign where you're running against someone or some people who will say anything without regard to the truth.
If you look at what happened in the UK, and there was an undercurrent, as you said, of people feeling lost or feeling disempowered. In the US, we are looking at, economists are saying that 40 to 60% of jobs might be affected by automation. And the pace of automation is increasing. Artificial intelligence means that computers can do what humans used to do much better. A lot of this is going to hit during your administration, should you win the election. Have you thought about how you want the American people to be prepared? Are the American people prepared?
I have thought about it quite a bit, because I agree with your projection that the pace of automation is accelerating. The impact on jobs that used to be seen as unlikely, if not impossible, to be done without a human being doing them, seems to be on the brink of increasing. So I think this is a serious issue, and it needs to be addressed by our government, by business, by education, and the like. So here's how I think about it. First of all, I doubt that it will be as fast and as pervasive as some people are projecting. These things don't just happen overnight. They take time, and they do slowly but surely change the nature of work, change who does what jobs. But the reality is it's going to happen. You know, driverless cars may be an exciting new step in transportation, but that means a lot of truckers and cabbies and Uber drivers and a lot of other people may well lose jobs. So how do we think about that? You see, I believe that people should have work with purpose and dignity. I think it's so much a part of the human DNA. I've looked at polling research done around the world, and you can ask somebody in the poorest or the richest country, in places where there's conflict and strife, places where there's nothing but peace and prosperity, what do you want? And surprisingly, it is so similar across the board. People want a good job to provide for themselves and their families so that they can, have education for their kids, health care for their family, a better future. This is baked into who we are as human beings. And we haven't yet figured out how to sort of jump over who we are as human beings to take advantage of all of the advances in technology. So we've got to do some serious thinking about how do we make technology more of an ally as opposed to an adversary? How do we create more jobs because of technology? We're seeing that there's a lot of jobs, for example, in healthcare. And there's a lot of technology in healthcare, but it takes somebody who understands how to actually do the procedure that is going to then be run up on the machine that will give you the answer. And then it takes somebody else to read those results and then figure out what that means for the patient. So I want us to have a realistic but optimistic view about what jobs can be. But we're not prepared for that. We're not prepared as a nation, and millions of Americans are not prepared with the skills that it will take to really enter into the kind of advanced technological economy that awaits us.
Well, you've talked about retraining and giving employers tax credits to be able to do apprenticeships. Is that enough? Is that going to happen fast enough? I mean, what you clearly are seeing where the future is going. Maybe it doesn't happen as fast as some people are saying, but it's going to happen. So how do we prepare?
Well, I think we've got to do several things, and it won't surprise you to hear me say we have to start with kids, because while we are trying to make sure that adults have the skills they need and can be trained and retrained for consecutive jobs, we also have to be doing more with kids. We need really first-rate computer science education in every school, and we don't have anything like that. We need to make sure that in high schools we've got much more project-based learning. I just saw a bunch of little kids, young kids, doing robots, and it's all project-based. We got to unleash our kids while we unleash our adults, our entrepreneurs, and our innovators. And that means we got to reimagine education. We've got to get out of the testing mentality and create a platform for kids to really explore technology, learn from technology, understand how to apply it. I still believe that they need to have a good base of liberal arts, of history, civic education, how to communicate, everything that I think goes into giving people the tools they need to be able to be so flexible, but they're going to have more hands-on learning. I think it was a real loss for high schools that we took so much of hands-on learning. We used to call it vocational learning or technical learning out of schools. Well, we've got to reintroduce it, but of course it has to be 21st century, not 1950s. We've got to have our community colleges platforms for learning, for gaining credentials, for being able to, go there while you're still in high school, go there when you graduate from high school, go there when maybe you lose a job or you move when you're in 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever. We've got to have a whole new mindset, and we've got to create more of a safety net for the American worker, because it's scary out there. And I meet so many people who their identity, their self-worth, their sense of belonging has been stripped away because the job they used to do and felt good doing and made a good living from, it's changed so much, or maybe it's no longer even there. And they do feel left out and left behind, and they don't think anybody cares about them. They don't think their government cares. They sure don't think that their employers and big business care. And I know it sounds maybe a little bit off topic talking about jobs and skills and training, but we've got to create a feeling of people being cared for to build their confidence so that they can compete for the jobs of the future.
You talk a lot about jobs with purpose, about self-worth. How do you feel about this idea that's kind of bubbling up about basic income, of making sure that people get paid a certain amount, whether they're working or not, and that might sustain people in a future where there are fewer jobs?
I'm not ready to go there yet, but I am ready to expand the earned income tax credit so that we link earning income to being relieved of paying taxes up to as high a threshold as we could get it, and for single people as well as families, because we've got an income problem as well as a jobs problem. We don't have enough good jobs being created. I think there's a lot of exciting work for people to be doing, but we don't seem to be organized in a way that is incentivizing the creation of those jobs right now. And then we have an income problem because a lot of the jobs that are available are not paying what people who need to support a family require. So I want us to look at how we do more on the earned income tax credit side. I want us to look more at profit sharing because I really believe giving people a sense of ownership in the enterprise in which they are employed will not only help them feel like they're being cared for, that they are succeeding, but it actually has been proven to produce more loyalty and less turnover, things that actually cost businesses money. So I know Switzerland just voted on basic income for everyone. They voted it down. I know that there's been a great debate going on in the press between those who favor it, those who don't, those who are curious, asking questions. So I'm going to keep an open mind, but right now I think that we've got to rebuild people's confidence, and I'm worried about how so many people, particularly working age men, have just dropped out of the labor force completely, and they are disconnected from their families, they're disconnected from their communities. Some of them are coming out of prison and there's no real opportunities for them. Some of them are in industries that have, moved on either by automation or by offshoring. And we've got to help create better opportunities for them without just giving up and saying, okay, fine, the rest of us who are producing income, we're going to, distribute it, and you don't really have to do anything anymore. I don't think that works for a democracy, and I don't think it works for most people.
Well, it goes against what you were talking about with purpose. If you
Yes.
believe the jobs give you a sense of self-worth, then the check might not
I believe that. I mean, I was raised by, a small businessman father, and, he used to say, when you work hard, when you play hard, and don't confuse the two. So I believe in individual responsibility and self-sufficiency and all the rest of it, but I also recognize how lucky I am, people like us are, because, the luck of the draw, how we were raised, how we were educated, how we have acquired skills that enable us to be quite flexible within our own economy and the global economy. That has not been true for a lot of really hardworking, decent people in our country. And I think it's, as I said in the beginning, also happening in other advanced economies. It's interesting because if you look at the vote in England, because Scotland voted to remain, obviously, if you look at the vote in England, a lot of the places that are more connected with the modern economy voted to remain. They're very comfortable in the milieu of a European Union, which is part of a larger global commons. A lot of people in small towns, rural, even less successful cities said, no, let's go back to the way we think it was. And in effect, that's what Trump is promising. Make America Great Again is really code for, hey, I can turn the clock back, and I can make you feel good, and I can get you the job that you used to have, and even at more money. And we won't have to worry about these pesky immigrants and Muslims and women and African Americans and other people, because we're going to make it great again on terms that will favor you. Well, it's a cruel fantasy. We know that is, but we also have to have a positive agenda. It's not enough to say that's nonsense. It can't be done. We've got to say, you know what? We are going to create more good jobs. I just don't understand why Republicans who I know love our country, I know care about our future, won't invest in big infrastructure projects to put millions of people to work, to make us more competitive. You can drive through a lot of parts of America. You can visit inner cities, rural areas. They don't even have access to high-speed broadband. How are they supposed to be part of the modern economy, no matter what skills we're able to impart, if they can't even be connected? So I'm going to make a passionate patriotic case for us to invest in infrastructure, invest in advanced manufacturing, invest in clean renewable energy, because it will give people pathways to jobs with good incomes, meaning, dignity, and a future.
We're in your hometown. Beautiful day. Seems like a great time for you to share with the world who your vice presidential pick is. If you want to do it right here, we're ready. The cameras are rolling. You feel like sharing?
Well, I'm not going to make news on that today, but I'm feeling very good about putting together a team of people. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out at our convention.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Great to talk to you. Thank you.